All right, so as we walk through our page 59 and 60 exercises here, let's just go to an answer script that I already have put together, and that's at the top of this file. So these answers are available to you in the in your SQL for Students folder. You go into your SQL files, you're going to find the page 59 to 60 exercise answers here. Okay, so you can actually, I want to give you time in the class to just go through these exercises. So you got up through page 59 and a little bit into page 60. So we'll walk through that section of the answers, and we'll cover the rest of the answers from a quick cursory view as well. And from there, we'll launch into our next section of the course. Okay. So with that said, all right, so page 59, this is our reference point. You got the numbers 1 through 8, which will appear in the SQL Developer as well, in the script for SQL Developer. So let me bring this up. Okay. So select all rows from department table using order by table column name. Okay. So table column name is something simple like department name or whatever you chose. There's nothing significant about which you may have chosen. If you wanted to take the next one, select all rows from employee table using order by job position. If you take job position, you do this one. If you take something more positional, more interesting, which you've already had exposure to that I mentioned, hey, give this a shot. You'd have to put in all the other names as well here, but positional reference for order by is the idea here. So what is expression, when we use that term expression, what expression is being referenced by the position to?
Hire date.
Yep, hire date. Yep. All right, so it's helpful to describe when you need it. Going into number 3, select all employees that have a salary between $2,600 and $7,000. There's 2 solutions for this. Let's see here. Okay, so that's rows 22 and 26. So you could say select blah 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 for salary between 26 and 7,000. Okay, so that includes 26 and it includes 7,000 down here at the bottom. Okay, so between and is one approach, and then the other approach is using the comparison operators here, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, all right, with and in between here. All right, so two different approaches. Going, it's let's see, so I can go on to number 5. All right, so number 5 was list the names. Let me make this a little bigger. List the names and hire date of all clerks in Department 30. Concat the first and last names in one display column, ordered by the name column alias. All right, so that should have come out as saying, hey, okay, what do we got to do there? We got to concat names. So this is one way to concat it. There's a function called concat that you've seen once. You can use the concat operator, or you can use the concat function. So either way is fine. And what's another way of writing this? What word could I put where this black box is right now that I selected?
As.
Yep, as. Mm-hmm. And what's the purpose of using the double quote here?
So that it's in that case.
Yep. So the name of the display column retains the case that I put. Okay. So we're focusing on department ID 30, and This is what would have had to have been necessary in order to find the clerks. How does yours compare to this? Yeah, I've got 5 entries there. What did you get in yours?
I got 6 entries.
Okay, in your 6 entries, let me just look at it quick,
So,
just in case maybe I got a mistake.
See, I didn't include clerk at all.
oh, I see.
Oh, I did department ID 30, but I didn't include clerk.
Now, so if you include the job ID, there's somebody else in there. So if I take out the job ID right now, go like this, then I should get 6, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
because there's a manager in there.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So why did you do 3060 in the department ID?
This
Oh,
is,
that's commented out.
yeah, it's commented out. So that's just to show an alternative way of looking at
Like
the,
typing that down.
yeah, you know, if you wanted to include more than one department, then you have to use in. You can't say equal 30. Well, you could say equals 30 or department ID equals 60. Alternatively, you could just say in. So this is more of a talking point, not part of the answer.
Mhm. Got it.
All right, so on number 6 here, list all employees and names begin with S, sort from highest to lowest salary. So highest to lowest salary would be the descending right here. And it's perfectly valid if you had something else in there for sort conditions, because you see some of them have the same salary, like at 6,500. So wanted to sort by last name, first name, whatever, that would have been appropriate. Okay, so here's the concat function. We'd seen the concat earlier. So on number 7, list the name, etc. And this we modified it a little bit to say for all salespeople that have a commission that is 20% or less. There is some extra verbiage in there that was confusing, not relevant.
Which one are you?
So this is the number 7. All right, and you may have just kept first name and last name or concatenated them together, however you wanted to do it, that's fine. There was no stipulation in there. And the idea of working with the annual salary shows up in number 7. So, you know, it's necessary to have some type of labeling right here. Okay. Otherwise you get this kind of weird column description in the display. Okay. So commission percentage times salary. Okay. Would be the monthly commission.
Oh.
Okay, so that's the way to think of the monthly commission portion.
Right, because that's.
The salary is monthly. Okay, and then in order to get the commission portion, you have to have this portion in here. So let me go back to number 7 here and see what it said. List the monthly salary, annual salary, and commission. So there's 3 items in commission earned. So there's 3 items to list there. So
This is number 7. This is the
correct.
monthly salary, annual
So
salary.
monthly salary, annual salary, monthly commission.
I just did the commission percentage.
I just did the commission percentage.
All right.
So that was the easy one, just selecting the commission.
But if it was on a
percentage, right?
test like that, I guess if I saw that answer, well, no, I don't know if I would have.
So you're almost guaranteed to see something that's a simple computation like this on the exam.
Yeah, because it clearly says commission earned. I just wasn't thinking.
Yeah, if I saw the different answers, I might have realized what they were
What is
asking.
the question number 7?
Name,
Uh,
salary,
We didn't include the commission, the monthly commission, we just left it commission percentage.
So why did you do monthly, since it asked for annual salary, why did you do monthly commission?
Good point. So if you want to, I think you're saying that the annual salary and then commission here is a little bit ambiguous, whether it be monthly or annual.
I mean, I guess if we looked at the answers on the test, it would.
How's the answer set right now?
Number 7.
Yeah, since the percentage, the commission percentage is static, meaning it applies for all the months out of the year. Commission percentage times salary is the monthly commission. So probably be better to say, I think this is what you're saying here. Monthly commission and annual salary. Like so.
That would work for me, yeah.
Okay.
So how
No,
we
but did you calculate the commission, Jason? Or did you just display the commission percent?
I just selected the commission percentage the first time, but if I would have saw monthly commission, I would have known to calculate it.
Yeah, or annual commission.
Yeah.
You know, something that's a little bit more explicit.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would have.
So we'll put that
can you send
We're grading your paper.
in. What was that again? Do you want to see this one?
Solution.
Okay. Yeah, so we've got, this up here is called what? I get this term embedded in our mind. We used it several times last class.
Can cancel for
This is called what? What was that? And this is called what? And this is called what? In other words, every one of these items between commas is what?
just the columns.
It's the columns on the report.
It'll be the columns on the report, but the thing I want you to get in your mind though, is each of these are an expression. Yeah. And so this is one expression. Yeah. And this is one, and even though this is just the column name, technically it's an expression. It's the simplest form of the expression. Okay, so the number 8, good with that? Go to number 8. All right, so number 8, list the name and total annual pay for each employee. Annual pay is salary times 12 plus the commission percentage of the annual salary. So there's a shaded difference here. Up here it was annual salary, and over here it's annual pay. So annual pay is salary times 12 plus the commission percentage of the annual salary.
And NBL stands for no value.
Yes. So that with the NVL in there, you don't have the non-commissioned employee's salary eliminated. So I'll do this kind of regularly a little bit. I'll throw in something that gets introduced as a new concept because null value has a high probability of showing up on the test. So this makes it look, I remember that one problem. Answers weren't there. What did we use for the solution? Oh, that's
Do
right.
we get to
null
see
value.
the data in the table?
Say it, what's that?
I mean, it would help if we saw some of the data that's in the table. So is there like a
So how do you see the data in the table?
test
Oh, on the test.
that we would know that there was no values in some of these fields?
That's a good question. So if the question is going to be that particular, I think they will make it clear that they'll say something like not all data values are present. They'll do some generic statement like that.
Mhm.
So that is a clue into you have to use the NBL, not the null value replacement function. Okay.
Or if there's a null value answer in there, we probably have to think, okay, this value would commission percent
Right, because it
have null value.
could be the reverse situation where they
Yeah.
don't say that there's no null values, but they say which expressions are the best. If they do these, choose the best answer, the null value one would be the better answer than just using the raw data value as is. So there's usually not that many, that's kind of a tricky question. PMI is notorious for doing that on the ACP and PMP exams. Oracle's not notorious for doing that on their exams. They don't aim for being tricky, they just are very pragmatic without trickiness. Okay, so next slide. Display the structure of the departments table and the jobs table. So that's just using the describe command. And obviously apply that to the other tables as well. And write a query that provides this output sorted by department name with no repeats of job ID within each department name. So this output means giving the department name and the job ID.
Okay, wait a minute, we're on 3 now?
Yeah. So you want to just see the job IDs, the unique job IDs within each department. So if you don't want any repetition of the job ID, what's one
You
way
want
to
to
do
do
that?
a distinct.
Right. Distinct is the right way to do that.
So from employees.
So, and you just mentioned a really key thing is like from employees. Okay, so there's a join in here because all of the jobs are associated with the employees table. You have to be able to know that number 3 means that job ID is in one table, that is the employees table, department names in another table. So if I got to bring those two together in a display, then the only way to do that is with a join. This is one of the forms of join. You could use join on or use this. So any question on that? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so number 4, write a query that provides this output sorted by city. Where you want the country ID, city, and department name. So again, this is going for joins, so in which tables are involved. And you have to look at this to see on the HR Dan connection here, it's asking for departments, what was that again? So, city, country, and departments. So here's countries, departments, and locations, I believe the city. So you have to be able to look at these 3 tables and say, okay, what are the foreign keys and primary keys that would allow me to join across these? All right, so with that,
So you just did the 2 tables, locations and departments.
for number
4.
get this selection off of there. So I want country ID, city, department name. Yeah, so I only need 2 because I've got locations. Because departments has location ID in it, I can go straight over to locations. And pick up, if I wanted the country name instead of the country ID, then I would have to throw that, make this a 3-way join instead of a 2-way join. So just watching for these details, is it asking for a country ID or is it asking for a country name? But those are just normal details that would show up in a question. All right, so the others, I'm gonna leave it to you to look through. I'll just highlight a couple items here that we're gonna see in our next set of slides and attention that we focus on, topics that we focus on. So there's these conversion functions. So I've mentioned several conversion functions. To-char is one of those conversion functions. So when you look at this, we covered this in the last class. If you just look at that, somebody describe with words, what is this highlighted function called doing for us?
It's formatting the salary to a character.
Yep. So salary is a number we know, and it's formatting it using a format string right here. And this is the first time you're seeing a format string for taking a number and converting it.
So it's taking the number, it's converting it for display purposes, not for comparison.
Exactly. It's for display purposes.
I was thinking at first it was comparison.
Yeah, if it was comparison, it'd be down in here somewhere in the where clause.
And you can do that there too.
Right, right. It's still, it would be fine to change it, do a to-char on this and a to-char on this, and then the values on the right-hand side, meaning the 200, 600, and 7,000 have to be single quoted for characters. And you might want to throw some dollar signs in here, make it more like currency then, which that'd be a reasonable application of using the logic. Okay. All right, so we'll walk into these conversion functions a little bit more, but I want to just draw a little more attention to that. So we did look at to date briefly as well. To date, so somebody describe what to date is doing. Hard.
Isn't it
Changing this text to a date format.
So you're taking the text and changing it to a date format. So keep in mind, to date means we're going to a date format. Just like to-char, as Donna said, it's going to a character string format. So that's the destination data type, taking a number, changing it to a character.
So on this, it's changing it, but it's saying it wants the hire date to be between January 1st of 2001 in this format.
This is a text.
Right.
We are comparing text with the date, higher
Is
date.
hire date,
different
what format is
formats.
hire date?
So how do you figure that out? Yeah, how do you know what format higher date is?
describe?
Describe,
Yep, the scribe will show you that.
but, so what's it converting here? Is it,
Go ahead, answer your questions.
is it converting the text into the, saying it's MMDDYY, or is it saying convert hire date to the same format as
No,
this
it
0,
says
1,
that
0?
the text you entered in the format of
Yeah.
month, day,
It's in this format.
in this format, so the function will know how to convert it to a date.
Yeah, that's what
Exactly.
I'm thinking, yeah.
And so exactly as you both just discussed there briefly, the same thing is happening here. Didn't like that described that.
That's the command that hung up on me.
I kind of think that's a disc-IO type issue. It's gotta be I would think that might be a disc-IO type issue. Because when I do a describe, it's gonna hit the data dictionaries, which are in a different table. I think they're in a different table space than our actual data files. Okay, so I might need to know just to avoid doing that. So describe.
Yes, we're trying to figure things out.
Oh, okay, no wonder.
What?
It was taking a while, I put in the wrong thing. I'm describing the column. It's like, okay, don't, it's me not thinking.
I'll give you an error finally.
I'm focusing on, our topic, but I wanted to, look at the table. All right, so that was me making a mistake. And it comes back and says, I have no idea what you're talking about. I looked high and low and I couldn't find anything that you're talking about. All right,
The
so,
higher date is where in there?
so hire date is,
Is in a date format.
right, it's in a date format. So we leave the date format here, but because it's in the date format, we have to convert any comparative, any comparison data values into date format.
But what format is date format?
Just date. Okay, so technically, to answer your question from a computer science perspective, it's a really, really big integer dated that includes seconds starting with 1970. Usually it's 1970. I'd have to look it up for Oracle dates. Some of the dates vary a little bit, but usually the reference point is that 0 is January 1st of 1970. Made that basically.
Okay, so my question is, why do we have to convert it?
On which line are you referring?
Pardon me. 99?
Okay, so why do we have to convert this?
Yeah, to date format, because isn't it, like, I'm looking at the question, it says list employees whose names
Word.
in ER and were hired between 2001, 2003.
We're telling it what format to use to compare the date we gave.
And there are two solutions here. It's not one. So this is one solution here. Now, if we look down below a little bit, yeah, let me change my window. So the solution up here says leave hire date in its native date format and convert your comparison into a date type. Okay. The other way is to, this is using between and. So this is using greater than or less than or equal to.
I guess I'm just confused because isn't the hire date already in date format?
Yeah, but date for higher date is, and it's a number, not,
Right, so if you did a straight display of your table, employees table, it comes out as, I have no clue. Day, month,
Right.
year, versus month, day, year.
Okay, so here's another way to do it. There's actually a third solution provided here. You could convert the hire date into a year by doing the to-char on it, and then provide your years as a character string. So you either convert hire date or you convert the data value that you're going to compare against hire date. Those are your two options.
I guess I prefer 110 through 120.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That works good. So that there's a lot of, so the point in here is to be able to look at the different options and say, oh, these three all work. Because that's going to be that you have to have that broad perspective when you look at it on the exam, because it's fairly common where it'll say out of the following 5, which 2 are correct. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's go on to number 7. List all employees by employee ID, name, jobs, hire date, and sort by manager ID. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Number 8, list the name, job, manager ID, and salary for all employees that have a manager. Exclude employees that do not have a manager. So how would you exclude employees that do not have a manager? What's your condition that you have to test against?
manager ID will not. No.
So we want all the employees, a lot of managers, so it is not null. So to the intention of what you said. All right, let's roll into our next block here. We've got your handout now that we're gonna, or not your handout quite yet. In your course notes, just slide over to the right spot. We've got this section here about role functions. So this is should be page 99, I think, in your handouts, or in your course notes, not your handout, in your bound course notes.
It's 99.
Page numbers line up. Okay, so this is an introduction, and then we're going to be moving into a Word document that I handed you that has a lot of various ways of thinking about SQL and looking at SQL. So let's go through a few of these slides. Some of these we can execute. You can execute this as we go along as well. So we're getting into the details now. We played around with the DML and the DDL extensively. Now there's, the select has a lot of complexity to it, a lot of depth and breadth, both dimensions vertically and horizontally. So row functions and character functions are part of this. So row functions, there's single row functions that operate on data values in individual rows. Okay, so there's also these multi-row functions that are referred to as aggregation functions. You might see that term, multi-row function. I always stick to just one word, aggregation functions. It's nice and generic. But keep in mind that both of these terms exist, multi-row function and aggregation functions. I think in the book that you have for Oracle, they use the term multi-row. Right, so these functions operate on all data rows in the table, or these functions operate on groups of data rows where the group by clause is present. So you got to think of the aggregation functions or multi-row functions in two different contexts. One is summarizing all the data in the table. The other context is summarizing according to whatever your group by condition is. All right, so examples here. All right, row functions operate on data values in individual rows. So changes displayed. Let's see, let's just take a look at this. All right, so the idea is select a function name, column, and then arguments. So this is a common way of showing syntax in any programming language, where the square braces here indicate optional. It's not required, it's optional. So when you read this, select, and then whatever the function name might be, it could be upper or lower, to change the case on some text. And then you've got some column name and then some arguments that apply to that. So looking at this, you could think of a function as a tochar, right? That conversion function that we just looked at. You do tochar, and then your column would be what? For the employees table. You're doing two chars.
Higher date.
Right, higher date. Yeah, because you're not going to do a two char on anything that's a name. Because name is already in a character format.
Right, okay.
So that was kind of a quick stat, throw that question out. Right, think through that, is that your column here, it has to be something that's going to be convertible to characters. That's either going to be a number or it's going to be a date. And in the case of the conversion function, the argument is what? So if we had our two char open parenthesis higher date and arguments here, what would the argument be?
The format for the number.
Yep, the format. So it's called a format string. So that's the format string. You put that in with whatever designations you want inside that format name. All right, so an example here of using a function, you've got upper, we'll make the department name be uppercase, and you have a nested function here. So somebody read off what trunk and average does. What is that doing with salary? Read it off very explicitly using in where you're mentioning the output of the average function.
Calculating the average, you're summing all the salaries and dividing it by the number of employees, and then you're truncating the decimals off.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a quick read. That's perfect. So in that concept here is that the average salary is returned by the average function. That return value becomes the input to the truncate, and then truncate will knock off any decimal values. So I think about that in terms of the
Does it round
the
it up
output
and truncate, or it just drops it?
it'll
I
in
would
this
think it
case
drops it.
it'll drop it because we did not add any additional arguments to say what level of precision we want to the right of the
Would
decimal.
it been like round or something?
Round is available, but
It's not that.
the trunk and round are both available. So we'll see the differences. Now, here's something a little different now. We're introducing, I mentioned that there's these other things, other types of joins. So we're saying from employees, natural join departments. Wait a minute, we didn't say join on, how does it know what to join? So natural join says, I'm lazy, I don't feel like getting into the details, you figure it out. So the you figure it out is the SQL engine. So what is it going to join on?
Department ID?
Right, because department ID, because it'll the SQL engine will go look at both tables and whatever column names match, it'll join on those column names. You could get unintended consequences if there's some column names like if the names of the employee was the first or last name was identified as name, and department name was also identified as name.
So the
Right, it's going to join on name in addition to department ID. So this is the little tripwire, so to speak, booby trap that you don't want to walk into.
Names across tables.
Yeah, so you got to know what the columns are in your head. You got to know that those column names are going to be relatively stable in the future when you're going to do natural join. Okay, so we're getting our thoughts into other forms of join here a little bit. And then the group by department name or the two level. Okay. All right, when we're used, so here we're changing, think about the row function. We're changing the displayed values. Okay, that's what the first one does. Now, in the where clause, we're using the row functions when we select data rows. Okay. So these row functions can be in the select clause, they can be in the where clause. Okay. And it's important to know that usually, like in the statement where it says upper Marco, usually we don't hard code anything. That's like illegal. Don't do that in programming. Like you can read it from a configuration file, but it's got to be hard coded. Don't hard code things as shown here where the upper Marco word is. All right, so I'm also introducing something else here now. These are substitution variables, and you will see this on the quiz or on the exam, certification exam. So this ampersand or ampersand is the other one. Yeah, no, that's right. It's his ampersand. That's the thing for home. Okay. The ampersand here means that last name is going to be a variable. Okay. And we'll be touching on variables towards the end of our time together today. But the name of the variable is last name, and what will happen is this will just prompt you. So go ahead and type this in now, just so you can see how this behaves, so you get used to it. And Markle is one of the names in there, I'm pretty sure. I'm typing it right now as well.
You said this is called
It's called a substitution variable. So that word substitution variable is what Oracle uses. I just call it a variable. Normally, everybody's just going to refer to that as a variable.
So what are we typing? Select.
So take this code right here and put this in.
Okay, more typically, than one? Okay.
Yeah. Just gonna open up a new file for myself here. All right, so you've seen by now that it'll come up and just say, so you asked me to request a prompt, request a value from the user, so put in a value, say okay, and then you get the Markle in there. All right, so this is variable substitution. If you were to rerun this command, again, I don't remember what all's in there. It's some select asterisk from employees or my last name. So there's like, there's Abel and Andy at the top here. So if I go back to running this command again, every time I run it, it keeps asking me for the name of a person. So if I run it again, say, all right, give me the name of the person again, Markle. Okay. All right, so suppose you don't want to, suppose I want to reuse what was previously entered. Then I can use a double ampersand. So this time when I type in like Markle or Abel, let me do that one since Markle's already shown right now. And then you gotta remember what's in there. ABEL. Okay, so I can't get my last name back because I typed in Abel wrong. So anytime you use this double ampersand, you now have last name is permanently set. I can do an undefined on last name in order to play with this. See, I don't remember if it's undefined or what. I'll have to look this up. I don't usually play around with the variables.
So, sorry, but why would we want to use this, or in what situations or cases will?
Okay, so the situation is when you want to get input from the user.
Okay.
That's when we want to use the ampersand.
Right. So if I just change this to L names, so I don't, I'd have to look up what the undefined is. It's in our last lab. If I change this to last name, this is getting input from a user. We're prompting, the terminology is prompting. We're prompting for a data value from the user. Okay, and it was ABEL, I think, and it had the L and the E reversed. Yeah. All right, so we're just doing this quick swoop in. Okay, there's substitution variables, so you'll see that in before lunch here, but we'll be hitting it at the end of the day as well.
And why do you want to use the double ampersand?
Double ampersand. So let me run this again, okay? Every time I run this, I get a prompt, boom, right? Every time. Okay, if I run with double ampersand, I still get, and I'll switch this back to Markle. I get Markle, but the next time I see this, it's not going to ask me every time. So if I wanted to, what I would normally do here is if I want to say select a department name, let me, instead of doing a join, I'll just do this really simple. Select salary, last name from employees where right, so these two are different statements now, right? They're very similar to each other, but they're different. So am I gonna get a prompt for the value or not when I run this? When I run this guy.
No, because you've already gotten L name.
Right. I've already gotten L name because I ran this that had a double prompt in it. So this isn't asking me, even if I change this from double to single, it's like, hey, you already gave me a value. I'm gonna still use that value. Okay.
How do you clear that? You do that
I'd have to look it
undefined?
up. That part I don't remember.
But does it clear, like, say you go in the next day, so you want somebody else?
Yeah, so every time, this is within the session, the variable is only held, the value provided for the variable is only held within that session. So if I disconnect this session, I'll have a new opportunity. All right. Okay, so all right, so we're starting to throw some of these additional concepts in here for row functions. When we look at row functions, so row functions can also be used in the where clause of delete, and it can be used with regard to update as well, and insert as well. So I don't know that we put with insert on the board here. I got where in it. Insert values. In here, you can have subqueries. Okay, so it's kind of you think about this insert values. You have subqueries, and then it fits within there.
When is that last statement in having clauses?
Having is used in conjunction with group by, so we'll see that within a half hour or right after lunch. So there's a having, which is a subclause to group by. All right, so single row functions, the simplest format, there's only one argument. The in multiple arguments case, this round function says if you have this number 10.246365, so you got a couple arguments that you pass in. So you can have, just keep in mind, you can have simple format, one argument, or multiple arguments, meaning you've got some secondaries that get applied onto the primary. right, these are the types or categories of row functions. You got character functions, you got number functions, you got datetime functions, conversion functions. And these are the only 3 conversion functions there are. And you've got some general functions such as end value and decode. So the purpose of this next segment is to get familiar with what these functions are, because you'll have to know them for the exam. All right, so character functions. Lower, upper, init cap, length. Length is one that returns a number. Sounds like, like Smith or Smythe. You can do this approximation type matching using the soundX function. CHR will return just an individual character. Okay, multiple argument character functions are these. So you've seen substring already. So this LPAD, right pad, LTrim, right trim, we'll walk through these so that you see how all of this works out. So these are things where you can go through and look at it and say, oh, okay, I understand it. But in order to really remember it, you gotta type this stuff in. So we're gonna do kind of a pretty intense blitz going through a lot of different statements. So we're not gonna be doing a lot of typing in. We'll do a little bit here and there, but especially after lunch, it's more like a blitz through a lot of different concepts, because you've worked enough with the tables, you got the constructs in your mind of how to interact with the data that's in the tables. So we're not going to be doing a lot of typing, a lot of copy and paste. But as we go in here, there is some that we can do just as is right now. Right, so single argument character functions, lower, upper, init cap. So this idea of init cap, this means that the first letter is caps, everything else is lowercase. So it's also called camel case. So just looking at this, select lower, upper, init cap, length from dual. What's your output going to be right there? I'll just throw it on the board. So first of all, how many display columns are you going to have?
Yeah, I'm lost. 104.
So nobody's quite asked what the heck is this dual thing?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Database.
I didn't get that far until you said it.
And it's not searching in a table or in a database.
Right. So think of the syntax for the select statement. The syntax always requires a table name.
Right.
From clause is table name. Okay. So when you want to run a SQL statement just generically, you use dual. So dual is think of it as a sandbox or scratch pad. It's just always present. Never has to be defined. It's always present. So that allows you to play around with simple functions like this, without having to refer to any specific table. Okay, so that's the dual item. So you've seen that once or twice, but now I want to really drill it in, because you're going to see it a lot regularly, I should say, as we walk through these functions. All right, so how many display columns will there be?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, so there'll be 4 different columns. And what's the output going to be under the first column? I'll just list these as column 1.
Small letters.
Oracle for lowercase. Is that what you said? Okay.
Right, so we're going to see, I'm just putting this on the whiteboard. What's the next column going to be?
All caps.
Yep, all caps. So let's squeeze this in. Column 3.
First character will be caps and the other
Camel
location.
case.
Yep, it'll be camel case, just inverting what you see right there. Okay, and then length, it's going to be what?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Characters.
6, 7, 8. 11, I think.
Yep, 11. Okay. So this is how to get used to the functions. Just do some really simple things. But there's nothing complicated about these. It's just like, oh, okay, use that function. Remember that it exists. Good. All right, so Soundex. This is a Smith-Smythe type thing. Any name similar to Smith is going to show up when you use the Soundex. Car. This is converting.
So what do you mean by that?
So go ahead and run it. Go run this on your database right now. I think this will match.
Last name first.
Mhm.
Employee.
So we take that.
How does it know that? Just magic.
Yep, it's an algorithmic magic. And so if you actually had Smythe in there, or if you had Smith with an E on the end, in addition to Smith right here, then it would all still wind up being, all of those rows would still be selected. Okay, so
So is it
Soundex,
based on like the sound, like the way it would normally be pronounced?
yeah, it's
It's not
it
like
takes a phonetic,
catching like a spelling error or something.
right. This is,
I tried to use the U character instead of Y, so it shows the same result.
so and remember there was like able was in there. So, but if I change able to BLE, it's still gonna come out, because phonetically it's the same.
Cool.
Okay, so that little function's
That's cool though.
sitting around in there, yeah.
And you don't know how to spell somebody's name, you just,
Exactly.
I just gotta know how to pronounce the name too.
Mhm. Just gotta know how to pronounce it. Good. All right, so car here, this is converting an ASCII binary number to a character. Okay, so select car 68, concatenate it with 111 with 103 from dual. And I don't remember what 68 is. 65 is A, capital A. So,
Capital A.
so that'll be C, probably C, I wanted to say CAT, but I don't remember right now. Been a while since I had to look at the ASCII table.
97 is this letter A.
So somebody can type that in and or I can grab it. So all of the characters that we work with are visually presented to us in our native language according to a internal code. So this is showing the decimal code, 68, 111, and 103. So these numbers, 68, can be written in binary, should just be ones and zeros, can be written in hex, can be written in decimal, which you see right here. Okay, so we just need to keep in mind, oh, okay, it's perfectly legit to just run this and that spells dog.
Capital D.
Okay, yeah, I was off by one there. Thought it was C. So 65 is capital A. That one I got memorized. That's always my reference point. I was off by one when I was progressing off at 65. All right, so car or char, however you want to say that, cure. There's several different ways of saying it. All right, now for playing around with this, I don't remember if we already did this or not, but we'll create a table. So make sure you're in as, London, Jakarta, Chicago, is Brasilia. Create table Z employees and select asterisk from employees. Employees was what?
In our local database.
Yeah, it's in the Oracle database under which schema?
For me, it's my name. I
And
think
the
it's
HR.
Chicago. So.
Yeah, so if it's in as your name, that means you already created it off of the HR schema or so. So this should have the 106 or 107 rows in it. All right, we're gonna add some data rows in here.
So we're good in our HR table to create the Z employees?
Yeah, so I'll step through this just so we make sure we're on the same page here. A little bit. All right, so I'm in as Brasilia for this particular one, it's miscellaneous row functions here. And I know I'm in as Brasilia because I had indicated up here. Okay. I'm in under HR, Dan. This one doesn't have a connection yet. All right, so as long as this says like London, Chicago, or Donna, then you're good. If you want to switch users, you can switch users. All right, so we had gotten introduced to this first step yesterday. So when you look at this statement for creating a table, what's the acronym for this table, for this create table statement? CTAS. Okay, so it's taking create table as, so they call it CTAS. So this is a term that may or may not be on the test. Usually the test is more oriented towards practical requirements is from a business analyst. It's not so much on technical terms like CTAS, but it would be good to keep that in mind. All right, so create table Z employees, select asterisk from employees. Okay, so let me go over here for Brasilia tables. All right, so I do have a Z employees that are already created. I thought it already created it, so. So for me, this is gonna fail because it's gonna say, hey, you can't do that. You already did it.
Yeah, I have one in there too.
Right. So the name already exists, so we're good. If we do a select asterisk from Z employees, say ordered by employee ID, just so we get a uniform output here. And then you scroll down, you should have these 107 entries. Okay. So the Z employees is going to be like our play box or sandbox. We're going to add and modify entries in here. I just don't want us to mess up the employees table. And we don't have permissions to mess up the employees table anyway, since it came from the HR user, the C HR user.
So we should be in this London or
Right. Your upper right connection is going to be London, Jakarta, Brasilia, or Chicago, whichever user you chose to go with. Okay, so add the data rows below. So we're gonna add these, we're gonna add into, how many data rows are we adding in?
One?
Yep, just adding in one. And if you wanted to go out, so we're gonna do this eventually anyway, but if you wanted to go out to your
You have to commit the change to lead the change in the table.
yeah, after doing the insert, you want that to stick, you gotta put it in.
What was it?
If you want that change to get written to the data file, you gotta hit commit. You know, hit the commit button up here, or else type in the word commit. So why are you using single quotes in here for some of these?
Take them.
Whereas
Just store them as they're defined.
distinction between text and numbers.
Right, the difference between text and numbers, because these are all text, so you know, this means that the ST clerk here, this is going to go into job ID. So job ID is text.
If you had double quotes on the text, would it take the?
It won't
doesn't-
take it.
It won't take it.
Yeah, this one wants only single quotes. Double quotes are used exclusively for naming your display columns. Okay, so show the list of employees and see employees' first name begins with Joe. So what would be the sequel for that?
Select.
So you know you need a where clause. So what's the where clause? So it's asking for your first name, so you know you need a first name. So how do you do this? Begins with Joe.
Like Joe, GO%.
Like this.
I think so.
Okay, so I could do that. But what if I've got thing that's trying to come back on that? Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So what if I want to have both of these returned in the same wording? What would I do?
Sorry?
Do you just use
You
or?
can write upper and the first name.
Right. This is going back to row functions.
I got you.
So we can just say upper right here. So that all of those beginning with more camel case show up here in addition to the one that's entered in uppercase. Okay, so these are the simple observations to just pick up on right away. Say, okay, got it. And then move on to the next one. So create an update statement that cleans up the data values in the row inserted above so that the case matches what is in the older Z employees var chart 2 columns. So how do you take and convert this?
Create update segment that and data that
So what this is,
something like
go ahead, speak it out. So update, what comes
change the
next?
first number, first fraction.
Update then table name, right?
Right. Any tables.
Set column.
Yep, set. And what are we gonna set?
First name. Equals init cap first name.
Yeah, we could just say init cap first name. Because then we don't really care what it is, just because we want all of them to be first name.
Right.
That would work out fine. It'll go ahead and update all the rows, which would be slightly excessive, but that would, it's like we don't really care. This is for point of illustration,
Now all are the same now.
right? So all are the same. Remember when we ran this line in 26 and 27? There was a Jonathan in there that was all uppercase. There was one that was lowercase, but when we did the init cap, that cleaned up everything. So we've got a uniform format for first name now. So these are just some of the things to think about. How would I use these functions? When would I use them? It's like cleaning up the data when there's been some data entry that we don't care for. It is one context. Okay. Usually when this happens, it's not a good, okay. All right, so think about concat here. Append a string to an existing string. We've already seen this. The only thing that could be missed on the exam here really is this middle area, this middle line right here, where if we want to concat first name and last name and have a space in between, then you've got to let that space exist somewhere. You have to explicitly identify that you want a space. It doesn't automatically know that you want a space. So when you read this select statement here, it's saying concat last name, first name without space. So this is what you get without space. This is the first expression right here. The second expression includes this space character and says that the name of the display column is going to be with space. So here you have a space in between first and last names. And it says from employees where row num is less than 5. Have we covered row num before?
I think so.
Okay. So what is row num doing here?
Split the first 5 rows.
Right. So whichever the first 5 rows are going to be.
Sorry.
Or, yeah. So in the first 4 in this case, since it says less than 5, it's supposed to be greater, less than or equal to 5. So this will give the first 4 rows of the output and throw the rest away. This is like, hey, all I wanted to do is see what concat does. I don't need to see it applied to like a million rows. just playing with this. Right, so we'd already covered the concat function is, alternatively, you use a concatenation operator. Okay. All right, so here's our left pad and right pad. All right, so I'm gonna walk through these a little bit. Yeah, let's see, I want you to be able to read this so I can tell you what it says, but it's better for you to digest it into your own understanding. All right, so what does LPAD do for you versus RPAD?
Print the data in place asterisk. So it sets the text from the right or from the left.
Mhm. Right, so you gotta think about left pad means that you want your text, or you want these extra characters to be added on the left. Right pad means you want the extra characters to be added on the right.
Okay.
So you keep that in your mind. And we're just identifying asterisk here. It could be anything you want. And there's kind of a semi-silly example down below. It says, well, instead of asterisk, I'm going to use asterisk dash asterisk. Okay. But the idea here is that whatever you set the width, the column to, it'll be filled up to that maximum width, regardless of whatever the patterns are that you're using here. Okay. All right, so left pad, right pad with concat. Okay, so there's left trim and right trim. So these are the reverse now. So think through these here. All right, within a string, remove all characters in set from the start of the string. Okay. So what we're doing is looking for like Mama Smith. So do a left trim. Okay. So the left trim says, what did the left trim do? I got two columns here. This is the first column. This is the first display column, meaning the first expression. This is the second expression. So what does this do?
It dropped the MA.
Yep. Well, it dropped more than just the MA. It dropped both MAs.
Yeah, or all the MAs.
Yep. So all the MAs get dropped. Okay. So we're starting from a left trim,
I
dropping
think it
all
starts
of these
from the
patterns.
last MA and drops the others, because then we have this the other example, which is Mama.
Mhm.
So MA heaven
Right.
matches the same, so it drops the others.
Right. So this is so it's looking for this match, and it drops everything to the left of it. So it removes all characters in the set from the start of the string. Because MAM all gets removed as well. So you can think of this in a different perspective. Think of this as all the possible characters to remove. So if we had like an R or a Z in here, you could play around with this and see what happens. And by the way, I'm showing you the use of dual here. And I'm showing you how to think through working with these functions so that you can just focus on what does the function actually do. All right, so we have this. Just put that in here. Copy. All right, so we just throw like R in here like it's mentioned. So the point in here is that it's all matching characters. If there is something that is not matching, then then the search will stop at that non-matching point.
I thought it was everything to the left of the matching characters.
It's everything to the left until it finds a non-match.
So the match is MA dash, so MA dash is further in, so why is RMA dash in there?
Right, and that's why I'm doing it this way. What's the answer to that question? Because that's the right question to ask.
I don't get it, that's why I'm asking.
So these are all the possible individual characters to search for. So this is, even though this looks like a string, it's like, oh, it has to be M and then A and then dash. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be that. It could be M or A or dash, but only one of these three. So M is the only one that matches over here. So as soon as it finds
Why
it,
did it take everything, if it's just one, why did it take everything before when there was no R?
okay, when there was no R, so and just to be able to see how that works out, let's put that in place here. So this is a really handy way of working with the select, is just let the comparisons be visually evident to you. All right, so this is with,
You said when it finds something that doesn't match,
right,
till it reaches a point it doesn't match.
right, because this MA, this is MA, MA, I could put in here like dash, MA, dash, just rerun this whole thing. So all of these still match because it's a character by character treatment of the second argument. It's not looking at this as having to be a substring, it's MA dash. It's M or A or dash. Comprendo?
Yeah, well, I comprehend, I don't understand, but yeah.
Right, so
Doesn't make sense.
So this is the thing where with functions, you just have to learn the rules of the function. This is, somebody set this function up and said it's gonna be this way, and it's stuck.
Yeah, so
Ever
left trim
since.
to me was that you find this matching character and you truncate everything to the left of it.
Right. Mhm. So we're revising that a little bit. We're saying if it's any of these characters, as soon as you find a non-match, you're done truncating, or trimming, I mean. I should say trim, okay. All right, so this is how to think through this. Try different things so that you get used to what the
Use
functions
the
do.
dual to play with the different,
Exactly. And just say from
to
dual,
get an understanding of what it's doing.
yeah, because dual is just this temporary table always available. All right, so let's go back to this. All right, so there's only a couple slides to go through on here yet. Let me do a quick check because we're at 12:30, so good break for lunch. Yeah, okay, well, we'll take a break. We've got about 5 slides to go to, and then we're gonna walk through a Word document that has a lot of numeric functions in it. So your character functions are in here. We're about halfway through these. Substring and in-string are the ones that come next. And these have some nice concrete examples for it. We'll do that after lunch.